What's poppin'? Right now, we're in Chicago, as you can see, the mirror behind me. This story right here is about a crew called the Goonie Boys. So right now, it's a crew. It's some guys called the Goonie Boy gangs from Chicago. They had just went to trial or whatever, but they accused of killing they got 11 murders in their RICO. So we about to just get straight into it. Um, we got the we got the indictment, we got the trial, we got all that shit. We got the snitches. So while y'all was watching King Vaughn and everybody else, the the Goonie Boss gang was running around the shop, tearing shit up. Whoa. So so according to the Chicago Sun Times, let's get straight to it. Goonie Boss gang members trial kicks off at Chicago federal courthouse with prosecutors saying they shattered real lives. This story was written May 22nd, 2023. So this case is fairly new. But I don't know if the trial is going on right now, but we're going to find out because some interesting things going on. So look at this guy right here. This don't look like a face you wouldn't fuck with. And also, it's a whole documentary on these scary looking motherfuckers right here. I'm starting to believe that in Chicago, them niggas breed murderers. The Goonie Boy Street Gang shattered real lives as it terrorized Inglewood, seeking money, fear, and respect on the streets of Chicago. A federal prosecutor told a jury Monday. And Romeo Old Dog Blackman murdered his way to the top, she said. Now, Blackman, 27, is on trial along with two other members of the Southside Gang in federal racketeering case expected to play out over the next several weeks at Dirks, Dirksen Federal Courthouse. A 2019 indictment tied the gang to 10 murders committed across 30 months. So, in the course of less than 3 years, these niggas killed 10 motherfuckers. These some killing motherfuckers. These some bad motherfuckers, y'all. Goonie Gang terrorized Inglewood, bragged on Facebook, made Goonie Gang t-shirts. Fed says. Hold on, let me straighten this out. Instead of being locked up, federal prosecutors allege that Blackman, the gang's alleged leader, offered someone 25,000 to have a witness killed. 25K to get a nigga to not snitch. Blackman Terrence. So okay, Blackman Terrence T. Smith, whatever the fuck that is, 27, and Jolicious Jojo Turman. Whoa. Pause on the name Jolicious. Yo, it was a murderer nigga in Chicago named Jolicious. Jolicious Jojo Turman, 31, are the latest alleged street gang members to face a sweeping racketeering trial in Chicago's federal courthouse. A federal jury 6 months ago convicted Wicked Town street gang members Donald Little Don Lee, and Torrance Blackie Benson at the end of trial that stretched over 9 weeks. Wicked Town Street Gang boss. Okay, let's see this. Let's look at those faces. A fourth member of the Goonie Boys gang, Nathaniel McElroy, pleaded guilty last week to a racketeering conspiracy rather than go to trial with Blackman, Smith, and Turman. So obviously he's telling. Let me read that again. A former member of the Goonie Boys gang, Nathaniel McElroy, pleaded guilty last week to a racketeering conspiracy rather than go to trial with Blackman, Smith, and Turman. That nigga didn't want to ride with the gang like O Block. These are the niggas that went to trial right here. Among them is a witness that some members, wow, among them is a witness that some members of the gang believed to have been murdered, even to this very day, Assistant U.S. Attorney Paige Nutini told the jury Monday. He's not dead, Nutini said. He will be here to testify. Wow. So, in other words, these niggas is on trial and they think somebody that they killed already. Oh, so more than likely they shot somebody. I would say allegedly, but they already convicted. So more than likely they shot some nigga and they thought the nigga was dead. So the dude obviously started snitching immediately and went in hiding. So if you ask me, from me not being a street guy, but a guy that know the streets from the window, let me look at you when I say that. Me not being a guy from the streets, but a guy that seen street activities from my window. Um, More than likely that when they shot this, whoever they shot, where the nigga name at? Did they even say the name? Among witness that some members of the gang would leave. Oh, they never even said his name. So whoever the person they shot that they think is dead was snitching immediately. Not only was he snitching immediately, but the feds was watching these niggas from the jump. So that's the only reason why they probably thought the nigga was dead. So that's the only way that happened, because you can't really fake your death, right? So what they probably did was when he got shot, after he got out of surgery, the feds was probably waiting for the nigga. You know what I mean? So the feds probably was waiting for him. Was like, yo, we know who shot you. We investigating these niggas. Plus, we know you probably doing something too, nigga. So, yeah, what you gonna do? Because all y'all about to go down. So you might as well tell on these niggas. Tell us everything now. Plus, these niggas shot you. Now, why did they shoot him? I guess we're gonna find out when we get to the trial, because we got the trial. So these are the two guys. He's not dead. Nutini's dead. That's a fucked up feeling. Okay, let's hear the defense. But defense attorneys caution jurors to treat witnesses skeptically. Terman defense attorney Molly Armour told jurors those witnesses have every reason to lie. Of course, the attorney gonna say that. Like, and let me, before I even read further on, I bet you they're gonna say those guys are gang members and drug dealers and thugs, and you know how they do the same shit like in the Young Thug trial and every other trial when they discredit people because of their criminal history. So I guess anyway, and Blackman's attorney Patrick Blegan, whatever, urged jurors to hold the feds to their burden of proving the technical aspects of the crime for which the men face trial, face trial dash slash racketeering. He said prosecutors won't be able to prove that Goonies existed for purposes like protecting territory or enriching its leaders as alleged in the indictment. Okay, so rather, now y'all heard what their attorney said. Rather, he said the gang was created by others who sought to defend themselves in a dangerous neighborhood. They was BD, I think a BD gang, by the way. Bludgeon told jurors their job is not to be overwhelmed by the violence. That's a hell of a shit for a lawyer to tell people, right? Don't be overwhelmed by the violence. How can you not be overwhelmed by violence? It's almost like, nigga, once we hear the violence, everything else don't even matter. The Goonie Boys trial, like other street gang trials, is playing out amid enhanced security at the Chicago Federal Courthouse. Ahead of the trial, U.S. District Judge John Blakey denied a request from the defendants to attend the trial without leg shackles, though he said table skirts could be used to hide the shackles from jurors. Wow, that's fucked up. So the fucking judge don't even want them niggas without leg shackles. Wait till we get into the murders. You'll see probably why. Them niggas was slumping shit, according to the feds. The feds say it happened March 24th, 2021, while Blackman was being held in Chicago's downtown Metropolitan Correctional Center. That must be Cook County. That's where Vaughn and Little J is sitting and got the is do not Vaughn, but Little J is, playing with the boys. Um, they said Blackman offered someone $25,000 to arrange for the killing, rather than act on the offer. The feds say that the person reported it to MCC. Okay, that's not the Cook County. That's the federal holding facility in Chicago. Duh. So yeah, so Chicago is a big city. So Chicago, so really, so bigger cities have federal holding facilities. Like New, everywhere have a fucking MCC. Chicago has one too, obviously. All right, so they got jailhouse snitches. Let me look at this fucking camera. So they got a thing what you call jailhouse snitches. Um, Baby's brother, Terrence Gangster Williams, was that right? He was the guy that was in the feds. You already told on some other shit, but you in there still telling. Like, I mean, what I mean by that for you guys that don't know, that's a person who they try to find out about. You in there about to serve your time, but he's asking you questions about your case. And meanwhile, when you think he on the phone with his family, this nigga on the phone with the prosecutor telling the prosecutor, yo, such and such, yeah, he just told me this. If there's any way you can help me, please. I'll tell you, I'll try to get anything I can. Sometimes they even go to the extent of wearing wires on you in those circumstances. But anyway, let's get to the Goonie Booms. I mean, the Goonie gang niggas. These niggas make O Block look like no block. Watch this shit. I'm telling you. The feds say it happened March 24th, 2021, while Blackman was being held. Okay, we read that to arrange for the killing. So he tried to get a witness killed for 25K. So obviously this nigga has some bread. The person also testified before a federal grand jury May 18, 2021 records show Blackman attorney have characterized it as the uncorroborated testimony of a jailhouse informant. So what he's trying to say is that being that is a jailhouse informant. See, a jailhouse informant is nigga, you ain't just you snitch, you a police on the inside, nigga. You feel me? Like nigga, I thought we got caught and it's over, nigga. Like you still telling in this motherfucker. That's a jailhouse informant. So the alleged murder victims of Blackman, Smith, and Turman were Jonathan Johnson, killed on January 22nd, 2014. Alonzo Williams, killed on March 21st, 2014. Stanley Boo or Bobo, killed on October 23rd, 2014. Crystal Jackson, killed on November 19th, 2014. Andre Donner, killed on December 13th, 2015. Devon Horace, killed on January 15th, 2016. Gerald Sayers, killed on May 26th, 2016. Ramal Hicks, killed on June 20th, 2016. Gerald Bumper, killed on June 30th, 2016. And Kenneth Whitaker, killed on June 1st, 2016. Damn. Damn, damn, damn. Rest in peace to all of those people. That's a lot of dead people. So they went on a fucking killing spree from January 22nd to July 1st, 2016. So from niggas had a murder run. God, they was just smoking shit. Now let's see what it was about. Nutini told jurors that some of the victims were killed simply for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Others were targeted because gang members believed they had spoken to law enforcement. Oh, okay. Okay, I kind of got a good clue. Me knowing the story kind of make me just want to get straight. All right, look, these niggas is listen. These niggas is some nutcases. That's just the bottom line. You know what I'm saying? Straight crazy niggas. So that was the news report. What we gonna do is we gonna look at the indictment for a second. Let's see this indictment. That was Chicago Times right there. That we was just okay. Boom. Now this is the indictment. There we go. Hold on. All right. Hey, for all you kids out there, see, saying kids is a good excuse. Is a good way of just lying. Like you. So anyway, this was Monday, July 10th, 2023. Hey, if you a street nigga, you do not want this at all. At all. This is your biggest fear. Is your name on the end of some shit like this. You don't ever in history want to see your name on no shit like this. Ain't nothing gangster about being on with your name on this at all. Unless it's about you winning a lawsuit for being one of the greatest Americans. Other than that, you do not want to be on the end of this side, black brothers and sisters and niggas and bitches. A federal jury has convicted three leaders of a Chicago street gang on federal racketeering charges for participating in a criminal organization that murdered rivals and violently protected its perceived territory on the city's south side. Convicted of a racketeering conspiracy were Romeo Blackman, 27, Terrence Smith, 27, Jolicious, Jolicious. That shit is sounds. They gonna anyway. Jolicious Terman. He probably was killing niggas because his name and shit. Yeah, niggas making fun of me. The age 31. All of Chicago. What? All of Chicago. All Chicago niggas, in other words. All right. Blackman and Smith were also convicted of multiple counts of violence in aid of racketeering. The jury returned its verdict Wednesday after a 7-week trial in U.S. District Court in Chicago. Blackman and Smith each face mandatory sentences of life in prison, while Terman faces a maximum sentence of 20 years. U.S. District Judge John Robert Blakey, a fourth defendant, okay, Nathan McElroy, Nathaniel, what the fuck? You know, I guess you just read anyway. Nathaniel McElroy of Chicago pleaded guilty to a racketeering conspiracy charge prior to trial. So, and is awaiting sentence. So this might be the snitch nigga, y'all. Any nigga that back out at the end of a federal trial is about to tell on the boss Goonie gang. You know what I mean? I wonder if they from Tay Town or Lamron or if they know any old block niggas. So So this nigga done backed out. Nathaniel McElroy of Chicago pleaded guilty. After the rest of the niggas was going to trial, this nigga backed out. All right. The defendant was indicted in 2018 after a joint federal and state investigation of a Chicago street gang faction known as the Goonie Boys Goonie Gang. Let me repeat that. The defendants were indicted in 2018 after a joint federal and state investigation of a Chicago street gang faction known as the Goonie Boys Goonie Gang. The defendants and other Goonie members stole firearms to arm themselves, violently prevented witnesses from cooperating with law enforcement, and publicly boasted about gang activities on social media. The jury found that members of the gang were liable for 6 murders while terrorizing the Inglewood neighborhoods on Chicago's South Side specifically. I guess the South Side of Chicago is where they breed murderers. That must be a poverty-stricken neighborhood, and that's just the facts. That shit is crazy, and all the guns is there too. These niggas got everybody got guns with no job. Blackman and Smith were liable for the murders. Them niggas got high-tech guns too. Blackman and Smith were liable for the murder of Stanley Bobo, 18, on October 23rd, 2014, in the 1400 block of West 72nd Street. Blackman and Smith were liable for the murder of Crystal Jackson, 25, on November 19, 2014, on the 6800 block on South Loomis Boulevard. Blackman was liable for the murder of Andre Donner, 26, on December 13, 2015, in the 7200 block of South Main Street. Blackman was liable for the murder of Davon Horace, 19. Hold the fuck up. So you see that? That's Blackman got 5 murders alone. Blackman was liable for the murder of Gerald Sayers, 38, on May 26, 2016, inside a barbershop in 1100 block of West 63rd, on 63rd, nigga. You heard? He not from 63rd. Turman was liable for the murder of Kenneth Whitaker, 34, on July 1st, 2016, near elementary school on the 7400 block of South Morgan Street. The jury found that Smith was liable for 2 attempted murders. Okay, the attempted murders must be the dude who the prosecutor was talking about. Oh, shit. Don't worry, because we got action after this. Big action. These niggas it must be something in the water in Chicago or something in the weed, because them niggas like killing each other. The convictions were announced by Maurice Pascal. Okay, I just read about Maurice Pascal. Maurice Pascal must be the lead prosecutor in Illinois. He's the same motherfucker that got the old block niggas. The dudes that killed Duck, that ambushed FBG Duck. Yeah, that nigga still was alive too, kicking too. Never forget that. He had the will to live, but the police allowed him to die. Isn't that fucked up? I know I'm going off the subject, but just thinking about seeing the Pascal name just made me think about the FBG Duck case, about him just sitting on the floor, and there was 20 Chicago police officers around him, and nobody helped him. That's mad ridiculous. That's disgusting, yo. They was letting him die. That's crazy. That's a whole nother topic. But every shit, I'm skipping shit now because I'm kind of mad just thinking about that shit. Combating violent street gangs is the top priority in our office, but yet y'all let FBG Duck get slaughtered in the Gulf Coast of Chicago, around our good Louis Vuitton stores and our goddamn Dolce and Gabbana stores. What the hell is wrong with y'all? So you're not protecting us from gang activity. Every Chicagoan deserves a safe place to live, and these convictions made it clear that serious crimes lead to serious consequences, said FBI Sack Wheeler. FBI Sack Wheeler is actually the same fucking agent on the fucking O Block case. So when he got these niggas, he already had O Block too. So he's in charge of the gang shit in Chicago. So if anybody from that gives a fuck, just know if you ever hear FBI Sack Wheeler, He's the nigga that's watching the niggas. He's in control of niggas, 100%. Anyway, Blackman was charged along with Rashad Anchando of Chicago and Keith Gullins of Streeter the third or whatever the fuck with stealing firearms from a licensed dealer in a smash and grab burglary. And Chando pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 5 years in federal prison, while Gurland pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 4.5 years. Blackman pleaded not guilty and is awaiting trial. Blackman had to go to trial. This nigga was hard. He went to trial for everything. Oh, McElroy and four others were indicted on federal arms violation of scheming to straw purchase handguns in Michigan. I don't know what the fuck that means. And I'm not pressing it either. Mm-hmm. Okay, scheming to straw purchase handguns in Michigan and resell them in Chicago. So that's just some federal, probably terminology of saying interstate trafficking guns or some shit. Because I don't even, yeah, that's all. Christian Civils of Chicago was charged in the state court with first-degree murder in the killing of David Easley on May 21st, 2016. Easley, 26, was shot and killed while walking in the 7,000 block of South Carpenter Street in Chicago. Civils pleaded not guilty and is awaiting trial in Cook County Criminal Court. So one thing we learned from King Von, since he's the famous killer, that if you go to trial in Chicago, 9 times out of 10, if you kill a nigga in Chicago, you got to go to trial. That's your best chance of beating that shit. That's what it looks like. I don't know. That might be the rules in Chicago. They go to trial. That's what I'm getting. Okay. Javion Bush of Chicago pleaded guilty to being an accessory to the carjacking of an off-duty police officer on October 18, 2018. Wow. Bush was sentenced to 15 months in prison. Upon his release from prison, Bush was charged with and subsequently pleaded guilty to obstruction of justice by retaliating against a witness. Bush is currently awaiting sentencing in the obstruction case. That's bullshit. But this nigga only got 18 months for carjacking an off-duty police officer. You know what? I'm tired of reading. This reading shit ain't for me. I'm trying to see some action. Look at these niggas right here, y'all. Let's get straight to it.
Before we get into it, let me run the intro.
The motherfucking Goonie boys. They trial. I don't know if their trial is going on. I mean, they've been sentenced. I think they had got 875 years in total, and we got the trial. Not this. This is the live shit. This is his stuff right here. Shout out to this nigga.
Known as Chicago's worst Southside neighborhood. The area is your typical low-income hood with the average income sitting at just
22,000 a year. So I want you guys to let that shit sink in. You know I'm a financial guy, so when I see numbers, just start making my brain turn. And I said this before. It has to be a poverty-stricken neighborhood. So that means on a yearly basis, the people that live in this neighborhood is making $22,000 a year. But yet they got guns that cost $1,500, and bullets ain't free either.
$22,000 a year. On top of this, it ranks in the top 2 most violent jurisdictions in Chicago. Because of this, residents are constantly on edge and they know that something can pop off at any moment. Regardless, people from this environment are used to it, so they still enjoy fun activities in the neighborhood. The same positive things still go on here like anywhere else, just with an added sense of danger. And that takes us to April 5th, 2008. It's a nice spring day in Englewood and everyone is happy to be outside after a brutal winter. And on this day, a family is celebrating their son's 8th grade graduation on their front lawn. Everyone is outside sharing laughs and having a great time. But then out of nowhere, 2 young men at the gathering begin arguing and start making threats. A young man who lives right next door hears the commotion and looks out his window. He sees a situation that could potentially end badly and his instincts kick in, so he instantly puts on his clothes and runs outside. The man's name is Albert Vaughn, a recent honors graduate from Julian High School. Well, Albert decides to walk into his neighbor's yard and tell everyone to relax. He even puts his arms out to separate the people arguing, and this right here is a major mistake in Chicago. The people at the party do not take well to Albert's intervention and they all begin to get in his face.
Now, Albert, this is the shy.
So he starts backing up and walks off their property. For whatever reason, the people follow him onto the curb and they begin to surround him. So in response, Albert picks up a wooden plank and holds it up. Even though he's just protecting himself, one of the partygoers does not like this at all. This would be 27-year-old Nathaniel Tucker, a man who had been arrested for 11 felonies in 5 years. Well, Nathaniel instantly runs inside the house looking for a metal bat. As he's grabbing the bat, Chicago police coincidentally arrive to the scene. All they see is Albert holding up a plank, so they order him to put it down and turn around. As Albert turns around and puts his hands up, Nathaniel comes running out of the house. He sprints all the way up to Albert and bam! Thankfully, Nathaniel was arrested at the scene. The incident devastated the community and especially the Vaughn family. The family was proud of their son as he had graduated high school and enrolled in college. Albert's father had raised him as a stand-up man and made sure to keep him off the streets of Chicago. Well, during the weeks after the incident, the family started a foundation in his name. The Albert Vaughn Foundation would be used to bring community activities to the streets of Englewood. And this is how Albert's 3 brothers made it their mission to keep his name alive. These would be Alvin, Alex, and Robert Vaughn. Through the foundation, the brothers started a 3-on-3 basketball league to bring the community together. The league was a major success and truly created a brotherhood of friends and family. They all hung out on a daily basis and began to call themselves Goonie Boss. The idea was that everyone in the squad was their own boss, but that they were not scared to defend themselves. Essentially, they were a good group of guys just trapped in a terrible neighborhood. The original members would of course be Alex, Alvin, and Robert Vaughn. Then would be one of their close friends named Jonathan Jackson, also known as
like
Big John. Another would be
little nigga look like K-Sue. That nigga, what's the nigga name? That nigga that who dad told on him?
An aspiring rapper named Alonzo Williams, also known as King Englewood. Jonathan and Alonzo were best friends to the Vaughn brothers, closer than blood could be. Well, over the years, they became known as the Hustlers and Fly Guys in Englewood. While everyone else was beefing, they were just there having a great time. They stayed in their lane and made sure to never step on anyone's toes. But then came the year 2012, when a new member would come along and ruin everything. In 2011, an unexpected man began showing up to the Goonie Basketball League. This would be a local man named Romeo Blackman, also known as O-Dog. O-Dog grew up in the streets of Englewood and was always known as a feared bully in the area. So when he first showed up to the league, everyone was confused. Why do you want to be here? And of course, the Vaughn brothers knew his reputation very well. However, because they're kind-hearted, they decided to look past it and give him a chance. Well, right off the bat, O-Dog and the Goonie Goonies became good friends and they began hanging out all the time. O-Dog really took a liking to the Goonies as he saw them as the cool guys in Englewood who liked to have fun, and the Goonies found him to be a fun guy to be around as well. However, O-Dog was not the changed man that the Vaughn brothers thought. In fact, his true intentions were to turn the Goonies into a powerful gang in the streets of Englewood. O-Dog had an obsession with power and he was willing to do anything to get it. So essentially, joining the Goonies was his opportunity to climb the ranks and began telling everyone what to do. And by 2013, his plan came into works. He convinced the Vaughns to let him lead the Goonies, and this is how the madness started. His first step was recruiting his own members, ones that he could trust to be loyal and put in work. First, he recruited his right-hand man named DeMarco Bennett, also known as Marco. Marco happens to be King Von's first cousin. Then he recruited his own cousin named Rashad Wells, also known as Tay Boog. Next would be a man named Terrence Smith, also known as T. T and Marco were two well-known steppers in Englewood, so this was a big deal. And after them would be another two steppers named Jolicious Turman and Lil Mo. Now this right here was a squad to be reckoned with, and the Vaughns had no idea what O-Dog created. At first they had no rivals, but O-Dog still wanted all the Goonies to carry a blick. And that takes us to January 10th, 2014. It's a cold Chicago winter day and Goonie member Big John is driving down South Racine Boulevard. As he's cruising, a Chicago police car gets behind him and hits the lights. So Big John pulls over and the officer asks to search the car. Inside the car, the officer finds a blicky, and just like that, Big John is arrested and booked into Cook County Jail. In the state of Illinois, this is a class 4 felony, punishable by a minimum of 1 to 3 years. Of course, the Goonies were upset, but 1 to 3 years was not the end of the world. And just like that, one of the original Goonies was gone for the foreseeable future. Or maybe not. Within just 3 days, Big John was released from Cook County Jail. This surprised everyone and even made some members skeptical. Specifically, O-Dog was paranoid that Big John was a snitch. So to confirm his suspicions, he began asking fellow members what they thought. Big John's best friend named King Englewood told him to hold off and that he didn't snitch. On top of this, the Vaughn brothers all told him the same thing. There are all kinds of reasons a case can be dropped, and anyways, who did he snitch on? It made 0 sense, but O-Dog was a fiend for conflict. 1 week later, January 22nd, 2014. O-Dog texts Big John to tell him that they need to meet up and talk. So at 4 p.m, O-Dog pulls up to Big John's apartment. He then walks inside his building and meets him in the hallway. Together they walk upstairs to his apartment, and that's when O-Dog makes a wild decision. This incident devastated the original Goonie Boss members. In their minds, this was completely unnecessary, especially without proof. The majority of original members were scared to speak up in fear of O-Dog. However, one original member had enough heart to speak up. This would be Big John's best friend, King Englewood. King approached O-Dog and told him that he was upset with his irrational decision. He told him that Big John was solid and that he made a terrible mistake. This was a bold decision, and O-Dog was furious. King Englewood was now on his list. March 21st, 2014. It's a Friday morning.
You don't want to make my fucking list like O-Dog.
Morning in Englewood, and King is outside on the block at 10:30 a.m. Specifically, he's hanging out in the alley a block down from Big John's apartment. Little does he know O-Dog is surfing around looking for him. O-Dog can't find him on Racine, but he knows that he's somewhere in the vicinity. At 10:40, he heads down West 70th and spots King Englewood outside. So he casually hops out of the car and walks down to the alley. He approaches King Englewood and without saying a word, King Englewood.
If killing all your friends was a person,
Wood was a popular young man and the whole community was hurt. Neither him or Big John had done anything to warrant what O-Dog did to them. As you would expect, the Goonies and the Vaughn brothers were not happy about what he had done. However, they knew that they were no match for O-Dog and his boys, so they had to just go along. O-Dog was truly becoming the feared leader he wanted to be, and this was a scary sight. O-Dog was destined to create a force on the south side and nothing was gonna get in his way. His first step was officially claiming a territory, the corner of 71st and Aberdeen. This is where the Goonies could now be seen on a daily basis. The territory wasn't claimed by anyone before, but the location was a very dangerous choice. The Goonies were surrounded by vicious gangs at every angle, literally just 1 block away. Just a block down on 72nd and Aberdeen was Push Squad, a reputed BD set. Then directly across Aberdeen is the Black Pea Stones, known as Mayblock. This was a dangerous predicament, but that's why O-Dog chose it. In fact, he was eager to use any inconvenience as a reason to start a beef. During this time, if you
that nigga O-Dog is the hardest nigga, yo.
Even looked at O-Dog for too long, he considered you an op. Well, in early October, O-Dog went to the club with a couple of Goonies. At the club, the Goonies were partying, looking to have a great time like they usually do. But O-Dog was in there for the sole purpose of finding a reason to get on anyone. Long story short, O-Dog got what he was looking for. He got into an argument with a reputed Inglewood set. This would be Chunky City, a reputed set located 15 blocks west of the Goonies. For most people, this would be a forgotten incident, but for O-Dog, it was a reason to start a beef. And just like that, the Goonies had their first ops, and Chunky City wasn't even aware. October 23rd, 2014. It's a regular Thursday afternoon in Englewood and the Goonies are hanging out with O-Dog. O-Dog is excited about a new member named Quante Hughes and he's eager for him to put in work. So at 6 p.m, O-Dog tells Quante about a section that he got into it with in the past weekend. He tells him that Chunky City members disrespected him and that he needs to make a statement. So Quante feels his anger and volunteers to slide. 7:20 p.m, O-Dog, Quante, and Terrence Smith hop in a Dodge Caravan and head to Chunky City. They put on their masks and gloves and begin circling the area. As they head up 72nd, they notice a man standing on the block. So instantly, O-Dog tells Quante to stop the car and let's go. They then open the doors of the van and O-Dog and Terrence hop out. The man starts running, but the Goonies eventually catch up. Directly after doing this, O-Dog and Terrence sprint back to the car and they drive away. As the Goonies are taking off, they notice a cop car behind them. They all figure they're screwed, but O-Dog tells them to calm down. He instructs Quante to speed up and make a left at the next corner. He then tells him to stop the car and for everyone to sprint in different directions. O-Dog and Terrence run between the houses and Quante takes off down the street. When the police catch up, all they see is Quante running away. They eventually catch up and Quante is arrested. O-Dog and Terrence were somehow able to make it home on foot without leaving a trace. O-Dog was nervous that Quante would snitch, but he never did such a thing. After such a close call, you'd expect the guys to lay low and reconsider what they're doing. But no, O-Dog was a sick-minded individual and this amped him up even more. In fact, just a month later, Terrence and O-Dog would slide again. While targeting a Chunky City member, the duo would accidentally hit a 25-year-old woman named Crystal Jackson.
We just read about her.
The terrible incident sparked major outrage in the community and caused everyone to start hating O-Dog. Even the Goonie members were disgusted by what he had done. Specifically, Alex and Alvin Vaughn could not believe what the Goonies turned into. This right here is very pivotal in the story, but we're not quite there yet. In the meantime, we focus on the Goonies' next rivalry. Right down the street happened to be Push Squad, a reputable BD set. When the Goonies claimed the territory right next door, Push Squad was not too thrilled. And as you know, hearing about this is enough to set off O-Dog. December 13th, 2015, 9:45 a.m. O-Dog hops in a silver Chrysler with Marco Bennett in the passenger seat. They slide around the Push Squad area, just a block away from where they reside. On the corner of 72nd and May, they spot a member named Smiley. O-Dog instantly tells Marco to hop out. So Marco hops out and runs across the street. Marco runs back to the car and O-Dog speeds off. He heads north for 5 minutes until a Chicago police car gets behind him. He stays calm until the police turn on their lights, and then he takes off. Once he gets some distance, he makes a right on 51st and tells Marco to hop out. Marco runs inside the nearest building and runs up the stairs. He realizes there's nowhere to go, so he throws his blicky out of the window into the backyard. He then runs back downstairs where he's surrounded by Chicago police. Just like that, Marco is arrested for evading police, and only that. And for O-Dog, he was able to get away after a short pursuit. Now you may be wondering how he got away, but this will explain it. O-Dog was only pulled over for not using a turn signal. The officer had no clue about the incident on 72nd, so that's why police gave up on the pursuit. It simply was not worth it. And police only tied Marco to the incident once they discovered the blicky in the backyard. On top of this, a witness would come forward and identify Marco as the one who did it. And just like that, he was cooked. Once again, O-Dog got lucky. He started this for absolutely zero reason, only because he felt disrespected. And now he was the primary rival of Push Squad. They wanted him gone right away. So for the next few months, Push Squad members searched and searched for O-Dog. They targeted him on several occasions, but he survived each one. The rivalry was on, and O-Dog was not playing fair. January 15th, 2016. It's a freezing cold morning in Englewood, and O-Dog and a fellow member are searching for rivals. Together, they're looking for Push Squad members they can find around 72nd. They check back.
Yeah, one thing we heard about these niggas ain't riding around looking to make no money. They riding around looking to kill people. This can't be what Chicago's like. This cannot be. I thought Chicago was players and shit, my nigga. Like, I thought, like, every story is the same. It's like all of these niggas is the same. It's like all the murderers is right there. And that's where they need to stay. Please, keep their asses right there.
Back a few times, but they can't find anyone outside. Well, at this same time, a young man named Devon Horace is on his way to 72nd and May to pick up a girl. Devon is known as D-Money, and he's from a section that has nothing to do with Goonie politics. Well, at 11:15, D-Money arrives on May Street and double parks and puts on his blinkers. As he's waiting for the girl to come outside, O-Dog and Tay Boog are driving up the street. They notice the car double parked and they get suspicious. So O-Dog double parks at the end of the street and hops out with Tay Boog. They walk towards D-Money's car and he notices them approaching. So he instantly opens his door, and that's when things go left. O-Dog sadly unleashes.
For no reason.
O-Dog and Tay Boog would skirt away and get away with this. Everyone was shocked, and once D-Money's hood found out what it was about, they were not too thrilled. They were now added to the list of O-Dog haters. D-Money was a popular figure in their hood, so much so that they changed their name from Tay-Town to D-Town. Once Push Squad found out about the story, they reached out to D-Town and decided to join together. This
must be when Lamron get involved.
This was bad news for O-Dog and the Goonies. March 15th, 2016. A Goonie member named Cuzzy is grabbing food from the market on 69th and Racine. Cuzzy,
nigga, yeah, y'all see that store? That shit look like a cemetery. Nigga, if you getting food there, the name of that store should be Last Meal. Look at this shit. Look how scary this store look. Look at this shit. Nah, son. Yeah, this is crazy. There's no way in motherfucking hell. Imagine, imagine you from out of town and you go visit your girlfriend that lives in Chicago, and she say, "Hey, babe, can you give me a sandwich from the store?" And you get in the store, and this is how the store look. I might as well tell her, "Hey, you know what you could do too? You might as well go get the white candle and put it there, because I think I'm gonna die if I go to that motherfucking store." This shit is fucking crazy, my nigga. You would have thought this was the 80s. Nigga, this is recently.
From the market on 69th and Racine, Cuzzy is not a factor for the Goonies, he's simply just a close friend of the Vaughns. Regardless, his associations make him a big target for the rivals. Well, at 7:30 p.m. he grabs his food and walks out of the store. And right there are two men with masks. This was Goonie Boss's first loss on paper, and when O-Dog found out, he was furious. At this point, O-Dog was disappointed that none of the Goonies were sliding on their own. For most members, this is because they didn't understand what they were sliding for. No one had ever done anything to them, but now the Goonie members had a reason to be upset. Specifically, a member named Christian Civils was upset, especially because he was close friends with Cuzzy. And for this reason, he had his eyes set on revenge on D-Town. So instantly, he began spinning around looking for D-Town members. And finally, he was able to get a drop. May 21st, 2016. Christian Civils gets word that a D-Town member is hanging out not too far from Goonie territory. Specifically, he gets word that Duke from D-Town is hanging out in Crazyville. So at 7:30 p.m., Christian heads to Crazyville looking for Duke. At 7:44, he drives down 70th and notices Duke standing outside a music video. Christian knows that there's too many people outside for him to hop out, so he makes another decision. He simply rolls down his window and bang. Sadly, 5 days later, O-Dog would do the same. Except this time, he was looking for Push Squad. May 26, 2016, 2:45 p.m. It's a Thursday afternoon in Englewood and a Push Squad member is getting his hair cut. On the south side of Chicago, barbershops are some of the most dangerous places one can be. This is because ops can accidentally meet there, but also because you're sitting in the same spot for over an hour. Well, the Push Squad member happens to be getting his hair cut at Powell's, a local barbershop on 63rd and May. As he's walking in the shop, a man walking out recognizes him as a Push Squad member. The man, who's a friend of O-Dog, texts him about what he had seen. Instantly, O-Dog leaves his house and hops in his gray Chrysler. He arrives 10 minutes later and double parks outside of the barbershop.
That's the murder vehicle.
And this is when he makes a truly devastating decision. From outside the barbershop, he simply unleashes. After doing this, he hops back in his car and drives straight to Alvin Vaughn's apartment. He tells Alvin that he caught a Push Squad member and to check the news. As they check the news...
Yo, never have friends like this. This nigga catch the murder and bring the same car, the gun, everything to your house.
Texts him about what he had seen. Instantly, O-Dog leaves his house and hops in his gray Chrysler. He arrives 10 minutes later and double parks outside of the...
Just because your name is O-Dog, don't mean you got to try to live up to the menace to society, O-Dog. It was just a movie, guys.
Barbershop. And this is when he makes a truly devastating decision. From outside the barbershop, he simply unleashes.
That nigga gave a nigga's haircuts from outside the barbershop.
After doing this, he hops back in his car and drives straight to Alvin Vaughn's apartment. He tells
Alvin, I just killed some niggas. What we gonna do?
Alvin that he caught a Push Squad member and to check the news. As they check the news several hours later, they realize that Gerald Cius was not the intended target. Alvin and Alex Vaughn are sick to their stomachs, but for whatever reason, O-Dog simply does not care. This infuriates Alex and Alvin, inching them one step closer to their breaking point. However, we're still not quite there yet. Sadly, O-Dog's madness would continue. After this wild act, O-Dog decides to take a break from the streets of Chicago. He decides to visit family in a small Illinois town just 2 hours south of Chicago. Particularly, he visits his distant cousin named Gerald Bumper, also known as
Goldie. This the motherfucking cousin that you do not want to invite over for dinner. Under no circumstances at all. In life. You never want to invite that nigga over.
as Goldie. Goldie was born in Englewood, but his family moved to the small town of Streator to escape the madness. If you're unfamiliar, which you are, Streator is a small country town where nothing happens. This is where Goldie was raised from elementary through high school, surrounded by nothing but farmers and small town living.
Why he trying to play Goldie? Like Goldie ain't been in the city, man. Like Goldie ain't never come to the rack.
Well, around 2015, O-Dog had poisoned his mind and recruited him to help out the Goonies. Because he wasn't in the streets, Goldie could legally purchase blickies under the radar. Essentially, O-Dog used him to get blickies as he'd pay him over retail. This is how business was conducted for over a year. Well, then came the summer of
this how he caught the gun charge. It makes sense. See, that's why reading fundamental.
2016, when O-Dog was flat out broke and could no longer afford to buy them. This was a problem, but O-Dog would always come up with a solution. He contacted Goldie and pitched him on the idea of hitting a lick in Streator, hitting the same store where Goldie used to buy the blickies. Well, Goldie agreed and the plan was on. O-Dog and 2 Goonie members drive down to Streator. June 21st, 2016, 10:30 p.m. O-Dog and 2 Goonies drive from Streator to the small town of Spring Valley. There, they look around for unattended cars to steal. At 10:40, O-Dog spots a black Jeep Wrangler at a gas station. He tells the Goonies to drop him off and to meet him at the blicky store. So he hops out of the car and jumps in the Jeep. He quietly pulls off and hits the freeway back to Streator. At 11:25, everyone arrives at South Post Gunsmithing. O-Dog then backs the Jeep in front of the doors. He tells the members to stand clear as he puts the car in reverse and slams on the gas. He breaks through the front door and they all run inside with their bags. After 5 minutes, they all hop in O-Dog's Chrysler and drive back to Chicago. Somehow they were able to get away with this. However, over the next week, O-Dog became extremely paranoid. He trusted his 2 Goonies to stay solid if they ever got arrested. But for Goldie, he was sure that he would snitch because he's not from the streets. For this reason, O-Dog refused to drive Goldie back to Streator. O-Dog was a paranoid man and he needed to keep his eyes on him at all times. And finally, after 8 days, O-Dog could no longer handle the anxiety. On June 30th, Goldie was found in an Englewood back alley.
Nigga smoked his own.
O-Dog truly reached a new low with this one. His own family who did absolutely nothing wrong to him. When Alex Vaughn heard about this, he was sick to his stomach once again. O-Dog had zero impulse control and you simply never knew who was next. On this day, the Vaughn brothers first considered turning him into police. O-Dog no longer had any friends who trust him. Instead, just a bunch of dudes who are too scared to ever confront him. And that takes us to the next day. On June 31st, 2016, Robert Vaughn was found inside his car in Englewood. This was another devastating loss to the Vaughn family, and finally it was their last straw. As a result of this, Alex Vaughn was completely distraught and he needed to take out his anger. So he decided to go to a local shooting range and let out some stress. Somehow he forgot he was a felon and this is an illegal activity. So after showing the range his ID, they were forced to call 911 and have him arrested. At this point, Alex is thinking that the universe is simply unfair. To lose another brother and then get locked up for something silly, oh my goodness. All while O-Dog is outside destroying the universe and never facing any consequences.
It'd be like that.
So after being arrested, Alex makes a very bold decision. He decides to tell police every single thing O-Dog has ever done. He even tells them how Goonie Boss started and all of the little details. He shows them the Facebook pages of all of the members and all of the self-incriminating posts. Essentially, he tells them
he told everything.
The entire story of Goonie Boss, how they were initially peaceful and then how O-Dog ruined everything. This was extremely bold and Chicago police had never seen anything like it before. Alex Vaughn single-handedly built a major RICO case on Goonie Boss. On October 26, 2018, 5 Goonie Boss members were indicted. 10 homicides in total, 9 of which done by O-Dog himself. Upon his indictment, O-Dog was facing a total of 875 years. Because of this, many people in Chicago consider O-Dog the worst that the streets have ever seen. Chicago police even admit this themselves. In fact, they even conducted a study of when O-Dog was in Chicago versus out of town. What they found out is that the crime rate in Englewood plummeted when O-Dog was out of town. That's how absolutely insane this man was.
Nigga, it sound like Vaughn was rapping Old Dog life.
It's truly a blessing that Alex Vaughn had the courage to take him down in court. As of today, a total of 23 members have either been convicted or are still fighting in court. What will happen, who knows, but it's safe to say that these are some of the worst GDs in Chicago.
Thanks a lot for your narration and this good video right here. Swamp Stories is the shit. His last words was, "What would happen? Who knows?" Guess who has what would happen and who knows? Me. So we're going to get into the trial of Alvin Vaughn. Remember this guy right here? He's the guy that they just showed. The one that fed up and took the whole sit down by herself.
He has on glass.
Shout out to Crown TV. Shout out to Crown TV. Them niggas got the real shit over there. You want to hear all the real shit from federal snitches? Go to Crown TV. Listen to this shit. Look.
Would you be able to?
Alex Vaughn had enough. Remember, he's the guy that him and his other brother or whatever, they started the Goonies, and then. So look, this guy, this nigga, he started the Goonies. So he's the alleged dude that took it all down. He got caught with the gun. Remember, he went to the gun range, forgot that he had a felony or whatever, and they charged him, and then he decided to tell on Old Dog. So he took Old Dog down single-handedly, and this is his testimony.
To recognize Romeo Blackman if you saw him? Yes. All right. If you could, would you look around the courtroom and let us know if you see Romeo Blackman? Yes. Could you point to him and indicate an article of clothing that he's wearing? He has on glasses, like a blue and white striped shirt over there. The record will reflect the in-court identification of the defendant. Did you know an individual by the name of Terrence Smith? Yes. Did you know him as Terrence Smith or by another nickname? I know him as T. Would you be able to recognize T if you saw him again? Yes. Could you look around the courtroom and let us know if you see him? Yes, I see him sitting next to in between the two women over there. He has glasses and dreads with like a gray shirt. The record will reflect the in-court identification of the defendant. Do you also know another individual by the name of Jolicious Terman? Yes. What do you know him as? Jojo. Is Jojo a member of Goonie Boys? Yes. Would you be able to recognize Jojo again if you saw him? Yes. Could you please look around the courtroom and let us know if you see Jojo? Yes. He's sitting in the back row over there with the suit on. The record will reflect the in-court identification of the defendant. Mr. Vaughn, I just want to be clear. When you said that Goonie Boys, you guys were swimming and hanging out, you were still involved in criminal activity, is that right? Yes. At some point in time, yes. And what is it that you were doing? First, like, we were selling drugs and stuff. Then this became a time where we was into it with people and we had to go slide and shoot at people and people would come shoot at us.
Tell it,
When you
nigga.
say you were selling drugs, was everybody in Goonie Boy selling drugs? Some of us. What kind of drugs were being sold? Selling weed and like white stuff. When you say white stuff, what do you mean? Like dope or something like that. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Keep your voice up.
Nigga,
Like dope.
if you're gonna snitch, snitch it all. Now you don't know what dope is. Nigga, crack, coke, heroin, nigga, say it now. Now this nigga don't know what it is.
Or something like that. Okay. I was just going to ask you, are you talking about crack? I believe so. Or are you talking about cocaine? I don't know. It was like powder, so I believe it was, I never sold it. I just always sold weed, so I never really got into it that much. Okay. But I know it's like powder. It's powder? Yes. But you yourself, you sold marijuana. Is that right? Yes. And you sold the marijuana to make money? Yes. Would you share that money with other Goonie Boss members? Objection leading. Prior questions were leading, so I'm going to sustain. Ask a question. I will, Your Honor. What, if anything, did you do with that money that you made from selling marijuana? Sometimes we will put money in a pot towards guns and buy more drugs. And sometimes I use some of the money to, when my kids needed stuff, buy them Pampers and clothes and stuff. Now, you said that you guys would go slide on the ops. I think that's the term you use. Is that right? Yes. Could you just explain to us what that means? What does it mean to slide? Basically, the slide is basically people we are into it with, we go on a block, and if we catch somebody, we'll shoot at them. And would that be anybody that you would shoot at, or is it just opposing gang members? Can you rephrase that question, please? Sure. You said you'd go on a block, and to slide means to go on a block and shoot at people. Is that right? Yes. Any particular people, or would you just shoot at anybody on the block? Basically, whoever was out there. If we go down the block, we into it with them. We into it with that block, and whoever was out there, we were shooting at them. Did Goonie Boss members carry firearms? Yes. How did Goonie Boss members get those firearms, if you know? Basically, we was getting guns from old men and them. We was getting guns from the bigger guys from E-Town. Once upon a time, Dell was bringing us back guns. Romeo would bring back guns from out of town. Bamboo would bring guns. Okay. Now, as part of this activity, did Goonie Boys have an area that was safe for them? Yes. What area was that? You say what areas or what area? What streets were you safe on? I want to say from 67th to 71st, from, I want to say Morgan to almost Ashland. That area, was that always the area that you guys were safe to walk, or did it change from time to time? No, it wasn't always the area that was safe, but we made it safe. Could you explain to the members of the jury how it is that you made those areas safe? Yes, so basically, if we was into it with someone, we go shoot at them, and we'll continuously shoot at them until they ran off or something. Or other people are there, be selling drugs and stuff like that. And we would just go over there, and we would just take over their territory and make it ours. Now, we talked a little bit about Goonie Boss, Let's talk about Goonie Gang. What is Goonie Gang? Goonie Gang, so basically Goonie Gang is like everybody listen to Romeo, like me, all the shorties. It all became, cause like after a while, like Romeo was putting in so much work, everybody was scared of him. I'm going to object to foundation, Judge. Sustain, lay a foundation. Sure. Let's go back a bit and let's talk about, well, let's start here. You talked about putting in work. What does it mean to put in work? To put in work is basically like shooting someone, killing someone, making a name for yourself. And a person that puts in work, does that raise their status within a gang? Yes. How do you find out that a person put in work? Can you rephrase that question? Sure. How would you know if an individual put in some work? Because basically they'll brag about it. So they put in the work and then they come back to the other members of the gang and they brag about it? Yes. And is there a way you guys would check to make sure that the person is actually telling the truth? Can you repeat that? Sure. Is there a way that you would check to make sure that the person that put in work and is coming back and telling you about that they're telling you the truth? You saying, is it a way that we check it? Yeah. Do you understand the question? I will phrase it. All right. Thank you, Your Honor. How would you know that somebody actually put in the work that they say they did? Because basically, like, after it's done or whatever, they will come, they will say what they did, and then, like, we'll hear about, like, what happened, and we'll confirm it. How would you hear about what happened? Because after they did it, they will come and tell us, like, what they did, and then, like, everything, the area is small, so people will be talking, and it will get around. And is this common practice within the Goonies for somebody to put in work and then come back and tell you what it is that they did? Yes. So if somebody put in work, most likely they've told you about it. Objection to leading, Judge. Sustain. Sure. How, if anyway, would you know that a person put in work? They would tell us. Okay. Was Romeo Blackman one of those people that had put in work? Yes. And you know that because he told you. Objection, Judge. Leading. All right, counsel. Don't lead. Wait a minute. Sustain. Don't lead. Sure. Pose a question. How do you know that Romeo Blackman put in work? He told me on different occasions. Is Terrence Smith one of the individuals that put in work? T? Yes. How did you know, if any way, that T put in work? He told me on different occasions. JoJo was an individual that put in work? Yes. How do you know that JoJo put in work? He told me when we was locked up. And to be fair, you put in some work too? Yes. And you shot at people? Yes. And you actually have some prior felony convictions too, correct? Counsel, don't lead, okay? Sure. Sustain. Do you have any prior felony convictions? Yes. How many? 2. Do you know what those convictions were for? Yes. Can you tell the members of the jury what you were convicted of?
Sexual assault.
Yes.
Allegedly.
I was convicted of unlawful use of a weapon in 2012, and I was convicted of attempt UUW in 2017. What, if any, benefits did you receive for that attempted UUW that you just spoke to the jury about? Can you say that one more time? Sure. Did anybody help you with that case? The second case that you spoke about? Yes, I cooperated with CPD. And as part of your cooperation, what did they give you as far as the charge goes? It went from a UUW by a gang member to attempted UUW. And were you also given probation? Yes, I was given 2-year probation. Now, we just spoke about it a little bit. You decided to cooperate with law enforcement, correct? Yes. Why did you decide to do that? I started to cooperate with law enforcement because on July 1st, 2016, while incarcerated, my brother was killed. Another one of my brothers was killed. And what did that propel you to do?
Snitch.
At that point, I had a chance to sit down, and think to myself and get myself together and see, was this really the lifestyle I wanted to live? Is this really what I wanted to do with my life? Sorry, go ahead. So I chose to cooperate because I wanted a better living environment for my son and my daughters. When you were first approached by, who were you first approached by? What agencies came to you first to talk about cooperation? I think it was CPD and the FBI. When they first came to talk to you, were you entirely truthful? No, I was not. Why not? Because I was not truthful because I didn't know. I didn't know them from a can of paint, and someone was there visiting me. And what? I said someone was there visiting me that I didn't know. Did you eventually tell law enforcement the entire truth about what you've done? Yes. Did you eventually tell law enforcement the entire truth about Goonie Boss and Goonie Gang? Yes, I did. And let me take a step back again. Goonie Boss, Goonie Gang, you consider it separate. Yes. But are they together also? Judge, objection to the leading. Objection. All right. We're going to do a sidebar.
That nigga was the Goonie snitch. That nigga was a straight Goonie tattletale. So if you want to hear the rest of that trial, you go find that on Crown TV. Them niggas got like 875 years in total. So you can look that up. The Goonie Boy Gang. Chicago. Chicago, nigga. Life is good.